I wanted to create some wealth. I wanted to create a life for my family. And I chose landscape. I started going door to door with zero clients, zero business acumen, no training. I didn't even cut my own grass. It became very clear to me very fast that I was a very poor landscaper. But the one thing that I was good at was sales and earning people's trust.
Welcome to the Deal Factory. I am your host, Jeff Harkness. Super excited in studio today. We have Jeremy Tallboy from North Georgia Landscape Management. Remember, each episode is powered by 3PG Advisors, and we bring CEOs and founders in that are rapidly scaling their businesses, and we're going to talk about growing and success. And certainly, Jeremy, thanks for being in studio. Pretty cool, huh, to be in studio here. First of all, congrats. You're everywhere.
Oh, thank you.
And what I was most excited about, and we'll talk a little bit about how we met last time,
Sure.
right, is how much growth and how visible you are out there in the community. And again, it's exciting to see what you and your team are doing. Yeah. I don't know that's getting any easier.
It's not.
But again, I think we're going to have some fun today. And I know the audience is real anxious to kind of hear your story. So Sure. Before we get into that, we met at a dinner.
Yeah.
Put on by the folks at Weathermatic. The SmartCon is coming up in, I think, San Antonio in a few weeks. And you weren't even going to go to that dinner. So sometimes it's just simple decisions that we make. I'm glad you decided to come to dinner, and you were pretty busy that day, I think.
Me too, absolutely. It was my third event of the day.
So, So, well, good. Listen, I want to start with a little bit your story.
Sure.
You're growing rapidly. You're still new in the industry to some degree. People don't quite know who you are and what your brand is, and that's despite all the good things that you're doing, including your team, your work, et cetera. But kind of walk through a little bit how you got started in the business, a little bit of your professional journey, and kind of get into present day.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so my story is pretty unique. I went to college to be a high school teacher and a high school baseball coach. No previous business training, not even any landscape training. During my last year of college, I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I started watching TV shows like Shark Tank and Bar Rescue, and I got bit by the bug. I wanted to create something. I wanted to build something. And I chose landscape because I didn't have any real-world experience in anything other than baseball. And I figured landscape would be the quickest and easiest for me to learn. So right out of college, my dad asked me what my plan was, and I told him I wanted to create a landscape company and build something I could pour my heart and soul into. And he believed in me, and he helped me get a truck and a trailer and some equipment, and I went down and got incorporated and just hit the ground running.
That was how many years ago, Jeremy?
That was the end of 2010.
2010.
Yeah.
And again, for the audience, one of the things that's fun for me is when I come across guys that are hyper competitive. You and I have already played a round of golf.
Yeah.
We had a chance to talk a little bit about your baseball background.
Sure.
And, congrats. You were a hell of a baseball player and hyper competitive, and I think that's translating over into the business.
Absolutely, and that's why I wanted to start a company, is because of my competitive spirit. Business is a game. I think everybody understands that. Everybody knows that. It's you competing against everybody else in your market for market share. So that led me down the business road, and I wanted to create some wealth. I wanted to create a life for my family, and I chose landscape. And I incorporated myself, and I started going door to door with zero clients, zero business acumen, no training. I didn't even cut my own grass. And it became very clear to me very fast that I was a very poor landscaper. But the one thing that I was good at was sales and earning people's trust. So very soon after, I decided I had to take the risk and start hiring people. And being an entrepreneur, you're just constantly taking risks anyway. So I hired some people, and I set my focus on sales and building the company and building the brand. And, it's been a long journey, but here we are. I'm sitting
Yeah.
next to you. So
Yeah, and the rest is kind of history, as they say, right? So give the audience just some idea, size, and scale, because you've built a beautiful business, and I know you've made some key hires.
Sure.
We'll get into some of your leaders and just this journey that you've been on, but you kind of closed out 2025, roughly size and scale. Where'd you finish out?
Yeah, just under $9 million in revenue. Mostly, about 50-50 split between residential design build and commercial maintenance and capital projects.
Yep.
In the peak season, we have just under 100 people total. So, again, it started with me in a truck and nobody else.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, like I said, congrats. And
Thank you.
we're just talking about, you just got back from Phoenix. You're attending the Leanscaper event. You're on the circuit now. I see you all over the place on social media. We're running into each other at a lot of the events. You're speaking at events. You're doing more podcasts like this.
Sure.
It's kind of happening quick for you, isn't it? The size and scale.
Traction.
It's coming quick.
Momentum. Yeah. Once you start building it and you set your sights on something and you start taking action, it kind of snowballs. So
yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I appreciated when you and I were golfing back in the spring or summer, we were eating lunch after, I can't remember, but you were really vulnerable when we were talking about you and the family and the business as we were sitting there at lunch. And for anybody in the audience that thinks, growing a business to $9-10 million is easy, it's not. And it's probably harder than ever with just the focus on compliance and trying to find skilled and talented people to kind of grow with and in your vision. But will you talk a little bit about some of those transformational moments, right, where you had shared with me, hey, we were struggling, and then boom, you really made a commitment to somebody to help you with your numbers and kind of a CFO, controller type. So talk to me about kind of that first ceiling that you hit, and you were kind of frustrated and said, look, I got to get somebody in here to help and get my arms around it. Was it really that on the financial side first, or was there some operational ceilings that you hit before you got into focusing on your financials? Yeah,
that's a great question. It was all of it at one time. I kind of hit a ceiling. There's certain break points when you're scaling a company. When I hit that first $3 million break point, that's when I knew I needed to bring in some top tier management. Mm-hmm. And to your point, knowing your numbers was one of the biggest things that I needed to do. For the longest time, I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants, taking a stab in the wind. But people liked me, and I could sell, right? So, but I didn't know my numbers, and I was operating under a strategy that spare no expense.
Yeah.
Right. Do what you have to do to build your brand, to gain awareness, and it was costing me a lot of money.
So your financial approach was do what's right by the customer.
Sure.
Not really sure about margins and profitability. Right. Hey, honey, is there money in the bank? Was that kind of the?
That's right.
Was that kind of the process?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And going through COVID, everybody in the home service business understands what I'm about to say. COVID, everybody was going gangbusters. So I was really trying to build the commercial maintenance side, but the residential design build side was booming. So it was supplementing all the mistakes that I was making on the commercial maintenance side. And I didn't know my numbers. But again, I was operating, I didn't care about making profit. Profit was last. It was about, getting in front of the right clientele and making every property look as good as we could, no matter what the labor budget was.
Yeah.
So I was leaking a lot of money, but again, it worked. And thankfully, I was able to supplement from the residential design build side to keep that afloat. But then came a time where everything kind of plateaued.
Yep.
And it was like, if you don't fix these numbers, you're going to close the doors.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to be out of a job.
Yeah.
So I decided it was time to start investing in myself.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have a business background. I'm not a finance guy. I'm not a marketing guy. I kind of learned everything the hard way. What I did, the most transformational thing that I think I did that I speak about often is I went through my social media and I got rid of all the crap, all the politics, all the social stuff, all the popular culture stuff, and I started following business people,
Yep.
Motivational people, and that changed my algorithm. And that's how I started really gaining understanding on business, and that was my business training. And then it started putting me in touch with people, and I went down this journey, this rabbit hole of learning your numbers. And the more I researched, the more I understood that I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
Much like everything at my company, a lot of things at my company. I don't understand anything, and I don't pretend to understand everything. And when you're in a situation like that, seek out people that do and bring them onto your team. And that's what I did. I actually went to an event last year, and I went solely to learn my numbers. There was a couple sessions about finances and learning your numbers.
Budgeting and forecast and balance sheet and P&L.
Sure.
It's amazing how many business owners, and again, I so appreciate you being vulnerable and transparent.
Yeah.
Everybody comes in and I know everything. It's not how that works, right? But it's amazing to me just how much people don't understand their balance sheet and kind of the impact of cash flow and margins, et cetera. So you made a consulting hire, correct?
I sure did.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, so another blessing, man, that I've got a lot of blessings in my life, and I appreciate every single one of them. This particular instance, like I said, I decided to start investing in myself. I could not afford to get on planes and go places and attend these seminars, but I did it anyway. If I had to go into debt, I didn't care. I was going to make that investment. And on this particular day, I was walking into a session about finances, and a man approached me outside the classroom, and he said, "Are you Jeremy Talboy?" And I said, "Am I in trouble?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." And he said, "I'm David Whitaker with Equiscapes Financial Advisors, and I came to this event to meet you." That's word for word what he said.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of taken aback. You're here to meet me?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Jeremy?
Yeah.
Out of all these
You
people?
thought he was security. He's going to throw you out.
That's right.
Like, hey, man, this guy pay?
Yeah. And I swear I paid my taxes. I don't know who you are. So I was kind of taken aback, and he explained to me what he was, a fractional CFO. And I was like, I literally looked up and I was like, thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm actually walking into a session right now that is called Know Your Numbers.
Yep.
I'm going to go do this. I will meet up with you afterwards. It's 45 minutes. And he said, well, I'm actually giving a session myself at 6 o'clock. Somebody had fallen off and he was kind of on deck.
Yep.
And it's all about finances. I said, okay, that's cool. However, I just flew in from Phoenix, my first investment in myself. I haven't seen my kids in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. I would really love to go see my kids. Anyway, I went to the session, and then I went to his session. I said, you know what? Something's just telling me.
Yep.
I could just set up a call tomorrow, whatever, but let me go in there. And he was going through the book Traction, and he was explaining all that stuff to me. And it was very clear from the moment he started speaking that, again, I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but I know he knows it. And I know it's super important to the success of my company. If I want to continue down this road and be successful and get to the top of this mountain, I've got to have somebody like that on my team.
So fast forward, you end up hiring David.
Absolutely.
Is he local in Atlanta? I don't remember. Yeah. So how often is he coming in?
So he comes to my office, maybe every quarter.
Yep.
But we do Zoom calls every month. We go over all the numbers from the previous month. And the way I explained it to him in the beginning, when we did our discovery call, he was going through everything. And I said, David, let me just stop you. This is all over my head. Again, there's a whole lot that I don't understand, and I don't pretend to understand, but I need people on my team that can understand. And I broke it down very simply. We can go through all the numbers. You can explain everything to me, but at the end of the day, really what I need to know is you're doing good, keep doing it, or we need to make a left turn, a right turn, or start going backwards or pump the brakes.
Yeah, it's amazing. You get into the world of finance and analytics, sometimes it's analysis paralysis,
Absolutely.
right? There's just so many KPIs coming at you that you can't function.
Sure.
And so David came in, started getting a hold of, did he help you build a budget?
Absolutely.
Was he doing reconciliation, month-end close? And then my guess is kind of began to help you identify some of the seats on the bus that you need to fill in that administrative, accounting, finance world. Is that all accurate?
That's 100% accurate. The first thing he did was build the budget.
Yeah.
Our spending budget and our sales budgets, all the numbers that we need to hit. And the way he did that was he went into our system and he pulled the last 3 years, looking at tax returns, went into our CRM, looked at all the invoices, did all that stuff, and built us a budget. And it was somewhat conservative. It was something that we wanted to make sure that we could hit, so that we didn't get discouraged. And he has all these spreadsheets. Again, they're so robust and they're so complete, and he explains them to us. And the coolest thing about this is about 4 months ago, at every month-end call, he was like, this is just great news. There's green all over the board. And I said, you know what? Can we set up a call next week? And I'm going to have my entire leadership team sit in on this, because for 8 straight now, again, it was conservative goals. But it was all such good news that I wanted my team to be involved, because this is all a byproduct of what they do every day. I'm the vision, I'm the leader, but they're the ones that put in the work. So about 4 months ago, I had them all sit in, and it is an absolute game changer for the synergy, the momentum, the cohesion of my team, for them to sit there and hear it from the CFO that everything they're doing is great, and we need to just keep pouring gas on that fire. But yes, he built all the budgets, and he's our GPS.
Yeah. Well, and it's that open book concept, right? Sure. And so part of growing a great business and great leaders is people got to understand the numbers, right? For every dollar of revenue I'm bringing in, how many pennies do we get to keep? And oftentimes financial acumen is not what's taught in school.
Right.
And people come into businesses, both yourself as an entrepreneur, but also people you've hired. And it can be a game changer. And it sounds like, shout out to David, right? He's going to have to take us to dinner after this podcast, for Pete's sake. He better call me, you know. And but again, it's awesome to see. What other hires have you made, right? Because again, you've been scaling. So you brought in David. You really got your hands around cash flow and the financials. You've engaged your people so that they realize, hey, it's hard.
Sure.
And that you're not just walking around with big pockets of money, right? And understanding what it takes to make profit in the landscape. You've made some other kind of transformational hires in the spirit of growth and scale.
Sure.
Talk about a couple of those others.
Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is our GM. I've never had a GM before. I brought in a guy named Jared Todd. He had his own successful landscape company on the West Coast for years, sold it off and came over here. He actually joined my team as a designer, and it was very apparent very fast that he was a really good designer and had a lot of knowledge, and brought some really big approvals like in the first week. And as he was observing, he came to me one day and said, look, I think from somebody that has had a successful business, landscape business, you could use a lot of help. And I was still at the point where I was wearing all the hats.
I remember you telling me this at lunch. Kind of scared you, like you weren't quite ready to make that hire, right? Kind of a leap of faith.
Exactly. You're putting trust in somebody. And this is my, I hate to say it this way, but this is my baby, right? This is something that I've poured my heart and soul into. And if you make the wrong decision at a position like that, it could be very detrimental, not just to me and my family, but to everybody under the roof of that building.
So a leap of faith, hired a GM, and you kind of built some trust, gave him some time, and then you kind of stepped out of that world, right? You got out of the world of micromanaging sales, micromanaging operations.
That's right.
And then with David coming in, you can kind of begin to see, cash flow, profits, momentum, that sort of stuff.
And he not only did he have a vast sales background, he also had a operational background. So he was able to go out into the shop and figure out all the operational hurdles that we had as far as labor budgets, going way over our labor budgets on properties, and having properties that were just losers because there's no enhancement opportunity, and we're spending too much time out there. We got too many guys in this truck, not enough guys in this truck, and he was able to fix that real well. But that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is Lauren Carroll. Lauren is my director of growth, business development. She has been fantastic.
I see her everywhere too, right? Like she's out there.
She's
Congrats.
the best.
Yeah.
She is absolutely the best.
Yeah.
I will put her up against anybody in the industry. She is the one that's out there. She's the biggest cheerleader for our company. She's hustling every single day, and she's bringing us new opportunities. Her background is multifamily. She was a multifamily manager, so she gives us that perspective on the customer service side of what our clients expect.
Yeah.
And that's been a game changer, right? To understand your customer from their perspective, that will change everything. So she's been able to do that. In addition, she also has a vast operational background. She was an operations manager before being a property manager. So she's helped us on that front. So she is an absolute all-star, an absolute blessing. She is she is the sole reason why we were able to grow the maintenance side so much. I mean, almost 60% this past year. And we just brought on Adam Benson, who is Associate Director of Growth. So he is going to be handling all the HOA growth.
Yeah.
And he comes from the HOA world. He's a property manager on that side. So again,
so you're all in on the front end of the business, right?
Absolutely.
I had a great conversation with Tim Portland from Yellowstone, and Tim and I have known each other for a long time. Obviously, they've built a huge business, right?
Sure.
Over $100 million of EBITDA. And Tim always preached in the time that I knew him, if you want to grow your business, net revenue growth, 10, 15%, let's just take 10, net revenue growth of 10%, and your retention rate is 90% on your core contracts, you got to grow by 20%.
That's right.
Right? And in so many companies, they're not investing or didn't invest in the front end of the business.
Sure.
They're not intentional about who the target client or prospect is. They don't have enough salespeople on the street. So, wow, I didn't realize how much talent you're putting on the front end. But again, if we go back simply, you didn't have a business background.
Yeah.
You were an athlete, highly competitive in that baseball world.
That's right.
We'll talk offline about coaching, right,
Yeah.
on your son. I know he's a stud.
He is.
Right? You guys are having fun with that.
That's it.
But so you've made a big-time investment in getting your numbers right and some talent around
Yes.
The financial side and the forecasting side of your business. You made a big-time investment in a GM to kind of get you out of that day-to-day
Sure.
from an operating perspective, and then you've added talent on the front end. What's the budget for 2026, right? Are you going to be into that like $10, $12 million range? Is that kind of what you're looking at?
Yeah, so our goal is 15 million.
So 15.
15 million from just under 9 to 15, and we have a really good strategy. Again, bringing Adam on staff along with Lauren. Lauren can handle the multifamily side. Adam's going to handle the HOAs, and then we've joined BOMA and IFMA and going after those facilities too to get into that because we've never tapped into that. Yeah. So now that I have a growth team, it's not just me. People that are dedicated to that. I think it's very attainable. In addition, on the residential design build side, we have some really talented designers.
And you jumped into that pool world.
That's right.
Correct? So you got into the pool world, both pool installations.
Yep.
And are you doing a lot of maintenance yet?
No,
on the
no
pool
maintenance. I
side?
refer them to a partner that I have.
Yeah, we need to go buy that guy.
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely.
I want you in the pool maintenance world.
There you go.
Okay? So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that at lunch.
Perfect.
Talk about the pool business. Why do you like it?
So the most attractive part was the high ticket value. Okay. But what really got us into it was, our phone would ring daily, almost people asking, do you guys build pools? You have a really good reputation. I know you guys do landscape design build. Do you guys design pools? And I got tired of saying no.
Yeah.
Also, we were doing a lot of projects where we would come behind a pool company. A lot of pool companies dig the hole, build the pool, and then they kind of leave you with a construction site.
All that ancillary work, all that outdoor living environment.
And
world.
I get it. They want to specialize in what they specialize in, what they're good at. Yeah. So we had a lot of opportunity to come in and finish the projects. So that, coupled with the phone calls that I was getting, it was just a no-brainer to start saying yes. So a cool story, I actually put something on Facebook and said, hey, I'm looking to start building pools. If anybody knows any subcontractors or anything, send them my way. And a guy reached out to me and said, hey, I do all the shotcrete. I'm one of the bigger players in Atlanta. Where's your office? And he came to my office, and he sat in my office for 2 or 3 hours. And
you let him sit there that long?
I did. I was a sponge. I was taking it all in. And I was very grateful that somebody took time out of their day to come sit in my office and teach me how to build pools. And that's what he did. He taught me step by step how to, and I was taking just copious amounts of notes.
Yeah.
Writing everything down. And not only did he teach me all the steps, how to design it, all that stuff, he gave me a whole list of subcontractors because he had been in the business for a long time. So from that point on, the next phone call, we said yes. I had all the notes. I had the subcontractors, and we built a couple. I built a couple myself, and it's super rewarding. They're awesome projects.
Yeah.
I mean, they're complete makeovers,
Yeah.
right? And then we hired a full-time pool design team. And this past year, I want to say we got 10 or 11 completed, and we still got 3 more from last year's sales.
A lot of growth in that segment.
Yeah.
And again, no kidding aside, right? I want you to get into the maintenance pool side of things.
Absolutely.
Right? And doing that. So I want to do this for time purposes as we kind of fast forward here. I've had a number of really good CEOs in your seat that have come into the Deal Factory. Alan Sweeney was just in. Justin White was in. Again, just thrilled that you're sitting here. We're having some fun together. One of the things that I loved what you said in the opening, that you started to shut out and really control the amount and type of information that you allow into your head.
That's right.
And it's so easy, as you articulated, to get caught up in the world of culture and politics, et cetera. And I'm always curious how you stay grounded, how you stay balanced. Sometimes it's as simple as making sure you get 8 hours of sleep. It's being inspired. You were just at the event in Phoenix, right? Yeah. But the best companies have the best leaders, and leaders aren't born. You have to invest in yourself personally. So again, appreciate you being vulnerable. What sort of things are you doing to stay balanced, stay healthy, stay energized? You got a wonderful, beautiful family. Just talk a little bit about getting yourself right, because everybody's got very little time. Everybody's busy. So get into that for the audience, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost is my faith. My faith in God. I would not be here without that. I pray all day, every day. And it's funny, the more you pray, the more things happen.
Yeah.
It's a form of manifestation, right? It changes your frequency. It allows the laws of attraction to work. And everything that I have today, I one day long ago was praying for. So that's first and foremost. How do I stay grounded? The most important thing in my life is my family. Mm-hmm. And I make sure that they are my priority. I clock out at 4 or 5 o'clock, and I take my son to baseball. I take my daughter to cheerleading. I try to always be attentive and present with them. It wasn't always like that. Hiring a GM really helped.
Helps, yeah.
I prioritize
You're building
sleep.
your team.
That's right.
Yeah.
Putting the right people in the right seats to allow you to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not always thinking. For instance, me and my wife have date night every Friday. I look forward to it. It's coming in a couple hours.
Yeah.
And we always, on the way to date night, say we're not going to talk about work. She works in my office. Yeah. She's helped me a lot. One thing about my wife, I will say, and this is a very important, critical thing to anybody's success. My wife does not let me leave the house any morning without her looking me in the eyes and telling me that she believes in me. And that's a super powerful thing. Yeah. If you want to talk about staying grounded, that's a huge part of it.
I would say so. Yeah.
Absolutely. She's my biggest fan, and she was with me when I was still working out of my house. So when you have a perspective like that, and you have a family that loves you and trusts you and believes in you the way my family does, it makes it easy to stay grounded.
It helps you get out of bed in the morning, doesn't it?
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, it is awesome, and I wish everybody had that, and I know not everybody does.
What sort of stuff are you reading? Are you listening to podcasts?
Absolutely.
I know that you're at events. I know that you're a sought-after speaker now, right? People want to talk to you, right? But what sort of What sort of stuff are you putting in your head? Are you into books? Like what sort of improvement?
Yeah. So a lot of business books. Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David was one of the first ones when I made this commitment to myself to change my algorithm. That was one of the first ones that came through my feed, and I don't read them. I listen to them.
Yeah, I get it.
So that was one of the first ones that was transformational. One of the key points in there that he says is hiring business development. That's where that whole idea. And I saw my competition, right? I get on LinkedIn. I see what the Russells and the Yellowstones and the Bright Views are doing. I see the organizations that they're a part of. And it made perfect sense to me. So that was one of the first ones, and then Traction.
Yeah, Gino Wickman.
Yeah, Gino Wickman, exactly, and the EOS. I had always heard about operating systems, but I didn't know that that's what they were talking about until I read that book. And I actually was turned on to that book from David Whitaker. And since he brought that to my attention and I read it, I see it everywhere, and it is one of the foundations to every successful company. But when I heard operating system, I thought Windows 11 or Outlook. Right. I thought that's what they were talking about. Sure. I didn't know they were talking about, standardized meetings and SOPs and scorecards and vision and synergy with your team. So since reading that book, that has opened up my eyes to everything. And then just following other business leaders, getting on LinkedIn or Instagram, and like I said, changing my algorithm, coming across people like Justin White and seeing what they're doing and what's working. So,
Jeremy, talk to me about the vision. What's the next 5 years look like for you? You just shared that you finished up right around $9 million. You're moving rapidly towards $12-15 million. When you get in the room with your leadership team, are you talking about $20 million, $50 million business, buy and build? You're going to do some acquisitions. What's the vision that you are articulating to your leadership team currently?
Sure. So first and foremost, our vision is to be the best, and the reason, or the way that we envision being the best, is being the best customer service company out there. Every company is a customer service company. Doesn't matter what product you sell. If you can provide the best client experience, you're going to be successful and you're going to take over that market. So that is what we focus on. And that's the vision I share with them every single day: communication and customer service. But on a broader spectrum, this year I would really like to get to some new markets. I have my eyes set on Charlotte and Greenville on the way. It's close enough to where I could pop in when I need to.
And you have customers asking you to come, right? Correct. They're like, hey, we got this going on in this market.
Yeah, on the multifamily side especially, we've made a good name for ourselves. Our team is great. Lauren's great. Adam's great. Jared's great. Our whole team is great. And these customers really enjoy working with my team. So they're starting to ask us, hey, do you have a branch in Charlotte, in Greenville, in Birmingham? Because they have a portfolio there and they would love to continue working with us. So that's part of the broader vision, and I would like to, I've set my sights on those two markets for 2026. I am exploring, acquiring some smaller companies that share the same vision. We'll see how that pans out. Yep. But growth through acquisition is a good strategy as well, as long as everything aligns, right? So that's kind of where we're going. Again, $15 million this year. Heavy emphasis on growing the maintenance side, and then also the more pools and larger scale residential design build. Adding some builders in there, doing some production stuff. That's a vertical we're looking at, and that plays into this $15 million goal. My ultimate vision, I think, as it stands right now, and I teeter, but as it stands right now, I would like to reach $50 million in value by 2035. I think it's very attainable.
How old are you?
I'm about to turn 43.
43. Yeah. You're in your prime growth world, right?
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the broader vision. And then I think I learned this from you at that dinner when I first met you. Bringing on some key players, talking about some equity, giving everybody
skin in the game,
ownership. And, if we decide to exit in 2035 or 2032 or 2040, that this team really gets rewarded for what they've built. Yeah. I didn't build it. Yeah. I kind of maybe started it, but they're the ones that build it. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, again, just an awesome story and kind of fun to be together, talking shop. I want to ask maybe just some quick rapid fire,
Sure.
right, questions. So, do you belong to any peer groups?
I don't. Vistage, one of them.
Yep.
I'm about to join.
Okay. So you're getting into Vistage. Yep.
Yeah. I've been told about it. It sounds great. I'm all over the place. Yeah. So I'm trying to really figure out where these things fit in.
What's the biggest return for your time? One of the things that that we're excited about with our other business unit, which is Source Expert Advisors, is I'm a big believer because I sit on a couple advisory boards, and an advisory board is different than a peer group meeting.
Okay.
And I'm not bashing peer groups because there's a lot of great ones out there. There's a lot of consultants in our industry that run really good peer groups. But we've been involved with a company that's really scaled significantly. And one of the things that's been cool is to be in an advisory board type of setting. And the difference with advisory board is you have a room of experts, complementary expertise, right? And all they're focused on is being your sounding board to help you execute and scale and create clarity quicker, right? So one of the things that I think is interesting, and you're going to see this a lot from us in 2026 moving forward, is an advisory board setup versus the peer group world.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Vistage. I am a fan of the peer groups, but to think about 4 quarterly meetings with people in the room that have created wealth and success, and they have complementary skill sets within accounting and finance, within that world of sales and organic growth, within the world of capital, private equity, mezz debt, et cetera. I think we're going to continue to see a lot of that. So I asked you in for a reason, okay? So I'm making a pitch. One of the things that we're going to talk about in the future is, do you move to kind of that advisory board setting? Take a guy like David, as you've talked about, that advisory board world.
Yeah.
And that, I believe, can kind of help accelerate companies to the next level at a much more aggressive clip. You're not reinventing the wheel.
Sure.
And so we'll talk more about that as it comes up. So last thing I want to talk about is we're living in a world in Georgia and in the industry now where compliance is a big deal.
Sure.
We're in an E-Verify state.
Yes.
Plenty of action from the Trump administration, regardless of politics, where we're getting into compliance around I-9s. We're getting into making sure that people are running businesses correctly. You've made investments there too, right? Eyes wide open on what it takes to operate a business in compliance. And unfortunately, we're still seeing worlds where there's people that aren't.
Yes.
Right? Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement.
Got
Absolutely.
it. Yep. And I think that I want to kind of close with this because you and I have chuckled a little bit about this. How many phone calls and emails a day are you getting or per week from people saying, hey, I've heard about you or I know you. Have you ever thought about selling your business? Are you getting, 3-4 calls a week at least on that?
Absolutely. From all over the country, people wanting to take us to dinner, discovery calls. And I always kind of respond with the same thing. I'm not really interested at this time.
Yeah.
I'm still building something. I appreciate your interest in me. Obviously it's a little ego boost. It lets me know that I'm doing something right for somebody in California or Texas or Florida to know who I am and reach out to me. However, the last phone call I got maybe 2 weeks ago, it was right before Christmas. I said, you know what? Let's have a conversation. I would love to have a conversation. I spent about an hour and a half on the phone with these people, and I asked them all these questions because knowledge is power, right? And instead of just pushing them off and kicking the can down the road, I said, well, let me start the conversation. Yeah. Let me kind of understand what you guys are looking for, how I can get there, how I can, over the next X amount of years, position myself even higher. And this particular phone call, they gave me a lot of information.
Yeah.
Very beneficial.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with having the end game in mind.
Sure.
I think every business owner, and you know us, you know what we do in our core business of 3PG and just kind of the run and track record. To be able to grow and scale a business, bring people along that you care about, transform their lives and your lives, right, with wealth. I say this all the time. There are countless examples of companies that have grown in scale and they've done it the right way and they've created a lot of wealth. So I know in the time that we've known each other, you got a plan.
I do.
Phone's going to continue to ring. And congrats to you on all your success and your team. And I'm anxious to see what the next 2 to 5 years looks like. So thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure sitting next to you, and I appreciate the opportunity.
I need some swag, man. I like your swag, okay?
That's
part
white
of
and the
it.
blue.
There we go. There we go.
I like your style.
Thanks again, Jeremy Tallboy in, and check them out. They're everywhere out there on the web, North Georgia Landscape Management, and appreciate you coming into the Deal Factory. Take care, everybody.